Battle of Yarmouk, how Khalid crushed the Roman war machine. What happens when the greatest military mind of the 7th century faces off against the mightiest empire of the age? How did a desert-born army, outnumbered and out-armored, corner the Byzantine juggernaut against cliffs so steep that soldiers leapt to their deaths rather than face the wrath of Khalid ibn al-Walid? Why did the Arab women of the camp pick up swords and fight alongside the men, turning the tide of battle with sheer defiance? This isn't just a battle. It's a collision of civilizations, a war of faith, fire, and finesse. The Battle of Yarmouk wasn't won by numbers. It was won by nerve, by strategy, and by a commander who whispered prayers while galloping into the jaws of death. So grab your shield, tighten your sandals, and prepare to ride into one of the most pivotal battles in world history. The year is 632 CE, and the Prophet Muhammad has just passed away. The Arabian Peninsula, once a patchwork of feuding tribes, is now united under Islam, but barely. The first caliph Abu Bakr has no time to mourn. Rebellions erupt like popcorn in a hot pan. The Ridda Wars begin, and Abu Bakr unleashes his secret weapon, Khalid ibn al-Walid, the Sword of Allah. Khalid doesn't just win battles, he erases opposition. By 633, Arabia is a fortress of faith, and Abu Bakr turns his gaze outward. The mission? Bring Iraq and Syria under Rashidun rule. But there's a catch. These lands are ruled by the Byzantines and Sasanians, two empires that have been slugging it out for decades. Think of it as a centuries-long boxing match where both fighters are now bleeding, exhausted, and leaning on the ropes. The Byzantines had technically won their war against the Sasanians, but it was a Pyrrhic victory. Their treasury was drained, their armies scattered, and their grip on the Levant was slipping like sand through fingers. They stopped paying tribal allies and instead tried to build defensive coalitions with nomadic groups in northern Hejaz, right on Islam's doorstep. Abu Bakr saw the writing on the wall. If the Byzantines pulled Arabia into their sphere of influence, the unity of the Muslim world would unravel. So he acted. In early 633, 4 Muslim armies entered Byzantine territory under Amr ibn As, Shurabil ibn Hassana, Yazid ibn Abi Sufyan, and Abu Ubaidah. Their orders? Don't touch the cities. Instead, occupy the countryside, win hearts, and build supply lines. The Byzantines, seeing no sieges or city assaults, assumed these were just desert raiders. They didn't mobilize. Big mistake. While the Levant simmered, Khalid was busy dismantling the Sasanian Empire in Iraq. His army, a mix of Ridda War veterans and loyal tribal fighters, swept through the Euphrates region like a sandstorm. His genius? The indirect approach, attacking from unexpected directions, using double envelopment to encircle and annihilate larger forces. Just as he was preparing to march on the Sasanian capital, a message arrived. Drop everything. Head to Syria. Now. In April 634, Khalid took a small force of elite warriors and crossed the waterless desert to Syria. No rivers, no wells, just heat and hope. His solution? Camel water tanks. He made 20 camels drink until they were sloshing, tied their mouths shut, and slaughtered one each day to hydrate his men. It was a 6-day march of madness, and it worked. Khalid entered Syria like a ghost from the dunes. Byzantine garrisons were stunned. Their border forts, designed to relay enemy movements, were bypassed. Khalid captured towns and forts en route to Damascus, and the caliphate's grip on the southeast solidified. Bostra fell first. Then the 4 Muslim armies converged in Palestine, where Amr ibn al-As faced a large Byzantine force, led by Theodore, brother of Emperor Heraclius. The Battle of Ajnadain was brutal. The Byzantines had spies, numbers, and terrain. But Khalid had momentum, faith, and fury. Many Muslims fell as martyrs, but the Byzantine field army was obliterated. Theodore fled to Amasa, and survivors scattered to walled cities like Pella. Heraclius, now alarmed, dispatched reinforcements to fortify roads south of Damascus. But Khalid outmaneuvered them and besieged Damascus. After 20 days and a failed relief attempt, the city surrendered. Just as Damascus fell, news arrived. Abu Bakr had died. His successor? Umar ibn al-Khattab. Respectful but wary of Khalid's growing legend, Umar demoted him and appointed Abu Ubaidah as commander. The message was clear: victory belongs to Allah, not to men. Under Abu Ubaidah, the Muslim advance slowed. He split the army. One part moved north, the other swept through Palestine. Meanwhile, Heraclius wasn't twiddling his imperial thumbs. He assembled 5 armies, led by Vahan, an Armenian general, and sent messages to every city. Syria is ours. This is a setback, not a surrender. The plan? Crush the Arabs in a decisive battle or destroy their scattered forces, one by one. Khalid saw the trap. The Muslim army in the north was about to be surrounded. He urged Abu Ubaidah to retreat south to the plains northeast of Lake Tiberias, perfect for cavalry and reinforcements. Just in time, the Muslims withdrew. 4 Byzantine armies marched on a mesa, and another aimed to recapture Damascus. Had the Muslims stayed, they'd have been crushed. Now pause for a sec. Step into the extraordinary. Subscribe to Eccentric Digital Pixel. Welcome to the wild frontier of creativity, where pixels pulse with imagination and every frame tells a story you've never seen before. At Eccentric Digital Pixel, we don't follow trends. We bend reality. From surreal digital art to mind-blowing visual experiments, this is your backstage pass to the future of expression. Why hit subscribe? Get exclusive access to jaw-dropping digital creations. Be the first to witness new drops by turning on notifications. Dive into a world of eccentric brilliance that inspires, challenges, and captivates. Join a community of visionaries who crave the unconventional. Don't just scroll, experience the pixel revolution. Smash that subscribe button and ring the bell to never miss a masterpiece. Because normal is boring, and you were born to see the world differently. While Khalid was sharpening his blades in Syria, Yazdegerd, the Sasanian king, was busy whispering sweet nothings to Heraclius, the Byzantine emperor. Their plan? A pincer movement, Byzantines from the west, Sasanians from the east. But alas, the Persian army was still tying its boots while Khalid's cavalry was already galloping. Back in Syria, Abu Ubaidah, now the overall commander, saw the storm brewing. A massive Byzantine army was assembling, and scouts reported a strong garrison at Caesarea, threatening to strike from the rear. Camping near Lake Tiberias was now a dangerous proposition, like sleeping between 2 lions with a meat necklace. So, once again, Abu Ubaidah turned to Khalid. The Sword of Allah advised a tactical retreat to the eastern end of the Yarmouk plateau, a position with natural defenses and room to maneuver. Abu Ubaidah agreed, and Khalid was given temporary field command. The Byzantines followed close behind, their banners fluttering like storm clouds. The Yarmouk plateau was no ordinary battlefield. It was a flat, undulating plain, dotted with rocky outcrops and sliced by rivers like Yarmouk, Rukad, Alan, and Harir, each carving deep gorges with steep cliffs. The grassy fields offered fodder and springs, but also traps and choke points. The Byzantines weren't in a rush. Vahan, their Armenian general, was under orders to stall, buy time until the Sasanians could join the fray. He tried diplomacy first. Jabala and Gregory led negotiations, dragging them out for 3 months. But as Umar's reinforcements trickled in, Vahan panicked. He requested a personal meeting with Khalid, hoping to intimidate the desert warrior with gold and food. Khalid's reply? It is not hunger that brought us here. If you refuse, there can only be war between us, and you will face men who love death as you love life. Vahan's face turned to stone. Negotiations were over. Vahan positioned his camp near Al-Yakusa, guarding the Roman road between Egypt and Syria. His line stretched from the Alan River to Jabia, anchored to the gorge in the south. Left flank, Slavic infantry under Konatir, a Slavic prince. Center, Ghassanid Arabs under Jabala, Armenians under Derjan. Right flank, Greek infantry under Gregory, including the legendary Macedonian 5th Legion. Archers, interspersed with infantry. Cavalry, supporting all divisions. Total strength, around 40,000. Khalid matched the Byzantine line, stretching his 25,000 troops across 10 kilometers. Left flank, Yazid ibn Abi Sufyan, anchored to the gorge. Center, Shurabil and Abu Ubaidah. Right flank, Amr ibn al-As, near Nawa. Archers, mixed with infantry. Cavalry, positioned to prevent breakthroughs. Khalid commanded the elite cavalry reserve, stationed near the vulnerable right flank. On August 15th, the armies stared each other down. Then a lone figure stepped forward. He dropped his shield, removed his armor, and roared, "I am the death of the pale faces. I am the killer of Romans. I am the scourge sent upon you. I am Zarar ibn al-Azwar." Byzantine officers charged. Zarar cut them down like wheat. More Muslim champions followed. The Byzantines watched in horror as their officers fell in single combat. At noon, Vahan ordered his army forward. He extended his front, forcing Khalid to stretch his infantry thin. A third of the Byzantine infantry advanced, testing the Muslim line. The fighting was light, but Vahan was stunned by the Arabs' resolve. He noted the gorge protected the Muslim left, but the open terrain on the right was a vulnerability. Khalid saw it too, and positioned himself closer to the right flank, ready to reinforce. As dusk fell, Vahan pulled back to the Alin River. Both commanders brooded over their next move. At dawn, Vahan launched a full assault, hoping to catch the Muslims during morning prayers. But Khalid had anticipated this. He built outposts overnight to prevent surprise attacks. Though the element of surprise was lost, Vahan pressed on. His plan? Pin the Muslim center, then crush the flanks with superior numbers. Khalid's center held firm, but on the right flank, Conatir's Slavic infantry surged forward. The Muslims were pushed back toward their camp. Amr ordered a cavalry counterattack to buy time. It worked, but barely. The Byzantines kept pressing. Then, the women of the camp rallied. They hobbled the camels, creating a living barricade. The Byzantine horses balked at the smell, refusing to charge. In the chaos, their legs and bellies were exposed. Muslim fighters pulled riders from their saddles. Conatir's assault collapsed. With Conatir's attack broken, Khalid saw an opening, a gap between the Byzantine left and center. He ordered Amr to send his cavalry north and flank Conatir. With fresh cavalry support, Amr launched a general advance. The tide was turning. The battlefield was a cauldron of chaos. Khalid's perfectly timed three-pronged attack forced Conatir, the Slavic prince, to abandon his advanced position and retreat toward the Byzantine main line. The maneuver was so precise, it felt like Khalid had choreographed the retreat himself. Had Conatir's Slavic infantry not been so disciplined, the entire Byzantine flank might have collapsed like a house of cards in a desert wind. But while the right flank was stabilizing, the Muslim left was crumbling. With most of Khalid's cavalry tied up on the right, Yazid's position was being overrun. Byzantine cavalry broke through and surged toward the Muslim camp. Gregory's infantry, like a slow-moving avalanche, ground forward. Yazid's troops, outnumbered and overwhelmed, fell back. And then came the fury of the Arab women. As Yazid's men stumbled toward the camp, they were met not with pity, but with rocks, insults, and righteous rage. Some women even joined the fight, wielding blades and defiance. Their courage lit a fire in Yazid's troops, who rallied and stabilized the line near the camp, halting the Byzantine advance. Just as Vahan's plan seemed to be working, Khalid dashed across the battlefield like a desert storm. He dispatched Durar ibn al-Azwar with a cavalry contingent to flank the Byzantine center. Durar's strike pinned the enemy in place, preventing reinforcements from reaching Gregory, and more importantly, it shattered Byzantine morale. Khalid then hit Gregory's division on the left. The Greeks gave ground, suffering heavy casualties. In the center, Derjan, a key Byzantine commander, was slain by Durar's troops. As dusk fell, both armies collapsed into exhaustion. But for Vahan, the loss of Derjan was a gut punch. Khalid's speed had exposed the cracks in his plan. Vahan resumed the assault, this time focusing on Khalid's right flank, where Byzantine heavy cavalry could wreak havoc. Their charge was devastating. Amr's division fell back, followed by Shurabil. As Jabalah's flank became exposed, Khalid charged into the gap, hitting the Ghassanid flank. Amr rallied. Shurabil reorganized. The Ghassanids, outflanked and battered, retreated in disarray. Seeing Jabalah disengage, Conatir also withdrew. Once again, Khalid's flanking attack had saved the day. On day 4, Vahan repeated his strategy. Conatir led the Slavs against Amr. Jabalah's Ghassanids, now reinforced by Armenians, pressed Shurabil. The imperial cataphracts, armored cavalry, were too much for the Arab light cavalry. Vahan ordered the Armenians and Greeks to advance slowly. Khalid feared a general assault. With his cavalry stretched thin, he couldn't reinforce both flanks. To buy time, he sent Abu Ubaidah and Yazid forward. Then came the horror. Horse archers rained arrows on the Muslim left. The volleys were so intense, so close, that the day became known as the Day of Lost Eyes. Abu Ubaidah and Yazid's divisions retreated out of range, bloodied but unbroken. On the right, Amr halted Conatir. Khalid reinforced Shurabil and pressed Jabalah. The Ghassanids, stubborn but depleted, gave ground. But then, Khalid's worst fear came true. Gregory ordered a general advance. Yazid's division buckled. Abu Ubaidah barely held the line. In desperation, Arab women picked up weapons and joined the fight. Their defiance inspired the men to hold. On the right, the Byzantines finally retreated. The fourth day was brutal, but the Muslims held. The next morning, Vahan sent an emissary offering a truce. The Arab commanders gathered. Some wanted to accept. After all, they were tired, wounded, and outnumbered. But Khalid stood up. The past 4 days tested our resolve. Now is not the time to concede. Now is the time to be decisive. He argued that the Byzantines had lost heart. Vahan was stalling to raise morale. The time to attack was now. That night, Khalid inspected the troops. Wounded soldiers leaned on each other, but their spirit never wavered. He sent Darar with 500 riders to capture a key bridge across the Raqad Gorge, cutting off Byzantine communications. At dawn, a hulking figure rode into no man's land. It was Gregory, challenging the Muslims. Abu Ubaidah accepted. Before leaving, he told Khalid, "If I don't return, you shall resume command." The duel was fierce. Gregory feigned retreat, then turned to strike. Abu Ubaidah ducked and slashed Gregory's neck. The Greek general fell. Moments later, Khalid ordered the Muslim line forward. Khalid had spent the night reorganizing the troops, leaving a token cavalry force behind the infantry to mask his true plan. He hid 8,000 riders in the dips of the plateau. As the center clashed, the Muslims pressed hard, but they couldn't sustain it. Just as Vahan's troops slowed the advance, Khalid sprung his trap. From the shallow dips, 8,000 riders thundered forward. Khalid aimed to surround the Byzantine left flank. Speed was everything. Vahan saw the dust cloud and panicked. He scrambled to send cavalry to cover the flank, but it was too late. Khalid surged past Amir's division, enveloping Conatir's Slavs. Over his shoulder, Khalid saw the center ablaze with combat. He pushed his steed harder. Conatir's and Jabalah's lines folded, bracing for impact. Khalid smashed into the Byzantine left, piercing an enemy soldier, his lance snapping in two. The final reckoning had begun. Khalid drew his sword, the blade glinting in the sun like divine judgment. He charged into the fray, striking down anyone in a red tunic, the color worn by Byzantine officers. His horse twisted and turned, kicking up dust and chaos, wreaking havoc among the Byzantine infantry. The Ghassanids, led by Jabalah, saw the tide turning and began to disengage. But their retreat turned into a nightmare. The bridge across the Raqad Gorge, their main escape route, had been captured by Darar's riders. Jabalah's troops panicked. Discipline dissolved. Each man tried to save himself. Conatir, the Slavic prince, fought on with grim resolve, but his division was surrounded. The Slavs were cut down, their formation shattered. The entire Byzantine line began collapsing. Vahan, the Armenian general, barked orders, trying to salvage the situation. Some units held their ground. Most were in total disarray. The imperial heavy cavalry, once the pride of Rome, tried to stem the tide, but they were outmaneuvered by Khalid's lightning-fast Arab light cavalry. The cataphracts, heavily armored and slow, were attacked from all sides. Their horses, confused and exposed, buckled. The riders fled, abandoning the infantry to their fate. Khalid steadied his steed. He closed his eyes and whispered a prayer of gratitude. He knew. The battle was won. Vahan's army was now cornered against the cliffs of the Raqad and Yarmouk gorges. Over the next several hours, Byzantine troops were systematically killed. Such was their desperation that hundreds, perhaps thousands, jumped to their deaths from the cliffs, choosing the void over the wrath of Khalid's warriors. On that day, the Rashidun army achieved a victory that would change the course of history forever. The Battle of Yarmouk wasn't just a clash of swords. It was a collision of civilizations. The mighty Byzantine Empire, with its disciplined legions and centuries of dominance, had underestimated the desert warriors. But in Khalid ibn al-Walid, they faced a military genius, a man who had transformed a ragtag force into an army that would conquer half the known world. Next up, the conquest of Egypt. The Levant had fallen. Syria was now under Rashidun control, and Khalid's gaze turned westward, toward the land of the Nile, where another empire awaited its reckoning. If this story gripped you, inspired you, or left you breathless, don't forget to follow, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you never miss another legendary tale from the golden age of Islam. The saga continues.